Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to take you through Soth's story circle to demonstrate that no matter how rich a character's lore is, it's usually abiding to some sort of structure. What I want to show here is how Soth went from an esteemed knight to monster, although, like all great characters, he's complicated, and some may think it's fair to observe that he was always a monster, and his fall from grace was fated because of this. Now, I've used several sources to really get to the heart of who Soth is and why he did what he did. So this arc focuses mainly on his life up until the Cataclysm and a few hundred years afterwards. Some of the lore I've included may or may not be canon. Regardless, what I do mention sheds some light on how the Soth we know came to be. So we begin in a zone of comfort. Soth starts as a squire and is in service to Holger Windsound. During this time, he's adventuring and slaying evil creatures in the name of the Knights of Solamnia. Eventually, he's promoted to Knight of the Sword and then Knight of the Rose. He is also supposedly happily married, and as far as anyone is concerned, seems content. On the surface, he is a dedicated and courageous knight, saving the world from the evils within it. However, he has a ruthless side, which grows as he becomes more successful. Next, Soth wants something. Soth is adjusting to his new rank, and while he is content for a while, he begins to think about who will carry on his legacy, and he is yet to have the son he desires. As Soth is travelling to Palanthas, the Jewel of Solamnia, to attend an annual gathering for the Knights of Solamnia, he and his band of soldiers spot a group of Silvernasty elves who are being attacked by ogres. Soth and his knights save the elves, and this is where he meets the beautiful Isolde Denessa, with whom he starts an affair. Soth initially offers to let her stay at Dagard Keep while she heals. However, she continues to live there long after she is better. Now he enters an unfamiliar situation. Soth's life becomes complicated when his wife, Corinne Gladria, learns of his affair with Isolde and seeks help from a hedge witch, so she can give Soth the son he desires. Soth is infuriated that his wife has meddled with the supernatural to conceive a child, which no doubt will prevent him from spending time with his new love, Isolde. To complicate things further, Isolde also becomes pregnant a month before his son with his wife, Corinne, is due. Soth is left with an impossible choice. He adapts to the situation. Soth begins to panic, and in an attempt to regain some control and order over his life, he concocts a brutal and evil plan. He secretly orders Caradoc, a loyal and ambitious steward, to murder his wife Corinne and their newly born son, who as a result of being conceived by magical means, is cursed. When his wife and son are gone, Soth focuses fully on his life with Isolde. But his ego and ruthlessness continue to grow. He doesn't have an ounce of regret for the heinous act he has committed against his first wife and infant son. Soth gets what he wants. Soth and Isolde appear to be making the most of their lot, and their family, on the surface, is doing well. Soth names his second son after his great-great-grandfather, Peredur Soth. However, this idyllic family setup only fuels Soth's paranoia. His fear of losing the life he has sacrificed so much for is all-consuming. Soth pays a heavy price. Finally, Soth's deplorable actions have caught up with him. He's arrested for the murder of his wife, Corinne, and their first son, and later sentenced to death. But before the executioner is able to remove his head, Soth's loyal band of knights rescue him, and later his sentence is reduced to exile at Dagard Keep. Though Soth has escaped with his life, he has lost his identity as a knight, and is devastated. He falls into a deep depression. Desperate to help her husband, Isolde begins to pray to the goddess Mishakal to save him. It's through these prayers that Mishakal speaks of a coming cataclysm, and that Soth is the only one who can prevent it, providing he can stop the king priest from calling down God's wrath. Soth returns to a familiar situation. Soth's depression lifts as he is about to embark on the quest to stop the king priest. He even takes 3 of his most loyal knights with him to Istar, but they encounter something strange along the way. Remember the band of Silvernasty elves who Isolde was with? Well, they make another appearance, strangely. But what is more curious is what they tell Soth. So the elf maidens reveal to Soth that Isolde doesn't love him and has been having countless affairs. Death blow, however, is when they allege that his beloved son Peredur isn't his. Now, I don't know their motivation for telling Soth this. Perhaps it was jealousy, or maybe it was something else. Maybe there are other forces at play here, and they were sent by the king priest to distract Soth from his mission. Nevertheless, upon hearing these revelations, Soth loses himself in a deep rage and kills all of the elves. Incensed, he abandons his quest to stop the cataclysm and rides back to Dagard Keep to confront Isolde. As Soth arrives home, Isolde greets him with their son. He shouts and screams at her, accusing her of infidelity. Isolde protests her innocence. During this explosive argument, the cataclysm strikes Kryn, sending shockwaves throughout the land. And it's these shockwaves that bring down a chandelier on Isolde and their son. With her dying breath, she hands Soth Perigure, but because he is convinced the baby isn't his son, he leaves him to die with his mother. Seeing Soth abandon them both, Isolde musters enough energy to curse him, declaring that he will live one life for every life lost due to the cataclysm. As the flames from the broken chandelier spread throughout the house, Soth, realising what he has done, lets the fire destroy him, but the gods want him to suffer. They honour Isolde's curse, and Soth awakes neither alive nor dead. He is now a Death Knight, or Knight of the Black Rose. Soth is changed. After the cataclysm and death of his once beloved Isolde and son, Soth spends hundreds of years roaming around his castle ruins. As the gods were especially cruel, they not only resurrected his charred remains, but also the skeletal bodies of his most loyal followers, including Caradoc, who was, if you remember, tasked with dispatching Soth's first wife and son. Moreover, the meddlesome elf maidens who spread the vicious lies about Isolde were also not spared peace and death, and now exist as banshees who torment Soth with songs of his vile deeds. Soth, who was once a proud and victorious knight, is now the evil he swore to kill. So I will end my story arc here. Of course there is more to Soth's lore, but I was more interested in his origins and how a knight as virtuous as him could fall from grace in such a catastrophic way. But were there always cracks and flaws in his character from the start that determined how he would evolve as a person? Even if there was no cataclysm, was he always corruptible? If we think back to Soth's childhood, his half-siblings were murdered by Caradoc on behalf of Soth's father to prevent them from having a claim to the Soth estate. These early experiences no doubt influenced Soth and his ruthlessness. Of course, he could have overcome what life threw his way, but he did not, and he showed his wives and children the same level of cruelty as his father did with his. And this is what we have to think about as GMs when writing compelling characters within our campaigns. How deep do those flaws go, and what key experiences shape the characters we write? If you've enjoyed this story arc, I have several more, which cover Tasha, Fraz-Urblu, Vecna, and Strahd. Don't forget to subscribe to see the first of my videos. Anyway, that's all for today, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.